This is Nuance, and we'll be speaking of a new report showing that we can be losing many of our homes due to flooding in this area over the next 15 years. Scary times indeed. Of course, I'm Mike Scala, joined as always by Jay Carter, also known as Timid, the hip hop artist, and the chair of BLM Tokyo. What's going on with you, Jay?
It's we're expecting a heavy snow and
Heavy snow. So, what does a heavy snow look like where you're at in Japan?
what that it could be. It doesn't say specifically what is going to constitute, but um the heaviest I've seen it here, people had to dig their cars out. So in the place I live, and I mean no, I mean when I mean dig their cars out, I mean the snow was up to the windows on the car from the ground up. So we're talking feet.
Okay, okay, I see. Yeah,
So,
that can mean a
so
few
the-
different things.
yeah, so the apartment I previously lived in, there was one way in, one way out, like the for the parking lot part, and people couldn't get their cars out for a week.
Right, right.
So
Okay,
that was the only time I've seen that here. It's been generally mild,
right.
but today they're expecting, I think someone told me yesterday they're expecting about 100 centimeters.
100 centimeters. Do some quick math on that. How many inches is 100 centimeters?
Isn't that like 100 centimeters? It's a little over 2 feet, isn't it? Because what, 32 centimeters per 12 inches.
Is that is that a fact?
So,
Yeah.
so it's about 3 feet-ish.
That's pretty substantial. In New York, we haven't really had a whole lot of snow over these past few years. You'll get some, you know, flurries here and there once in a while,
Right.
right? But as far as accumulation goes, I can't recall the last time we had something that serious. In fact, I was in Albany back in 2016 when we had a really bad snowstorm in the New York City area. And you think of Albany as being harsher, right? Because it's further north.
Right.
I think it's going to be
Right. Right.
worse. It was colder temperature wise, but we really didn't get any snow there when I was there. It was weird. Back in Queens, they got demolished with the snowstorm, right? To that degree. So I remember that
Um,
being the case then, but really over the past few years, not a whole lot. Sometimes you'll have to dig your car out, but not in the way you're describing, right? Where the whole car is
right.
basically covered in snow.
And that, like I said, that happened once here. And that was the worst I'd seen. Like it was so bad that year. Like I remember walking on the sidewalk and there was like a dead bird upside down in the snow. Like it just froze to death. Um, but it's
Reminded me
been
of the Nas line. I smoked so much lie, I saw a dead bird flying through a broken sky, something like that.
it's been generally mild
Yeah.
out here. Like really, even this year we've had snowfall like I think twice, but first time it didn't even stick. It was gone immediately. And then the second time there's snow on the ground now. And looks like we're about to get a double up. So
Right. Well, good luck with that. I do not like snow. I do not like the winter. I like warm weather. Kind of wish I was back
it's
in the Keys right now.
it's
But
funny the way you said that.
yeah,
It kind of sounded like green eggs and ham. I do not like
right,
snow.
right. Maybe I should write a children's book about my disdain for the snow.
Yeah.
And
No, I,
people I know from Florida, right, and in the South, they like it because they don't get to experience it a lot, especially in the South, right, like Miami area. They
right.
don't really see snowfall like that, and so sometimes they'll come up around here, and I'm like, wow, they're so enchanted by it, and to me, it's just a big annoyance I don't want to deal with.
Well, I've seen like so my previous coworkers were Filipino and they were from the Philippines, directly from the Philippines to work over here. And they had never seen snow in their life because
Yeah.
it doesn't snow in the Philippines. And so they were super excited when it snowed and they were out taking pictures
Mhm.
and all of that type of stuff. And it was all great and whatever for like a week. And then they were like, okay, we're over this.
Right.
It's
I had a
cold.
similar I had a similar experience with friends from Miami who were in Queens when it snowed, and they were actually in the car with me, and the snow started to come down and hit the windshield, and they were like, "Wait, is that snow?" I was like, "Yeah," and they went so crazy over it. They made me pull over, And I guess it started to accumulate pretty quickly because I remember them rolling around in it, having snowball fights and like going crazy. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Get back in the car. Like, this is great. I don't want to sit here while the snow keeps building up like that. But it was like a magical miracle moment for them, right? They loved it.
Right. Yeah.
So speaking of loving things, I have found a love for video editing over the past week or so, especially long form content. Because I've been doing the shorts, the TikToks, and whatnot, but I've really gotten into piecing together a vlog slash documentary style video of my life, right? My journey over the past month or so. And
Right.
that is something I haven't really done before. I know back in the day we would do kind of similar when we would go maybe
Right.
for a weekend, right? Do some shows over the weekend. We would take footage at the show, behind the scenes, on the drive, let the rest stop, that kind of stuff. So I guess it's kind of in that vein, right? But
Right.
now on a bigger scale and with much higher quality footage, which has been a bit of a pain in the neck in terms of the processing of it all.
Oh
So
yeah.
that was the part that really was making me nervous, to be honest with you, because I was thinking, man, my computer might not really be up to speed. To be honest, I bought this laptop during COVID and I just told them, listen, at the time I was just doing emails, very basic stuff. And they're like, oh, if that's all you're
Right.
doing, just buy this one over here. You don't need a whole lot. You know what I mean? And I just kept
Right.
it for the past few years. Now I've been doing more with it. I've been doing a podcast with it now, and I've been doing
Right.
some video stuff with it. And so I probably should get a higher duty laptop. But in the meantime, I've been working on this one. And so far so good. The biggest obstacle I would say is every time I import a video, right? Right now it's being stored on the cloud, so that's all good. But when I import it, I save it on an external hard drive, which has a terabyte worth of space, so that's fine. But to actually edit these clips now in the software, I need more processing speed. And so the way that it's
Right.
working is with proxies, right? Where it'll
Right.
make a smaller version of that video for editing purposes, which is fine. However, I quickly discovered how much space even these proxies take up. And then it was playing this
Uh-huh.
game where it wouldn't let me use the external hard drive for the proxies. It's like, no, those have to be on your system. I'm like, really? I don't have that much space on my system. So that's making me nervous. Like at some point, I'm going to run out of physical space just to save the proxies, right? And the other thing is that it takes a long time to build these proxies. So if I import
Right.
a video clip that's a few minutes long, I might be sitting there for like 10, 15 minutes for the proxy to generate. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that's what's taking the longest time, to be honest with you. Because, this video might be, I don't know, 20, 30-minute video when it's all done. As I've been taking these videos over the past month or so, I've been kind of editing creatively in my head, right? Thinking, okay, I'm going to tell a story like this. I'm going to show this one. I'm going to cut to this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. So I kind of know where I want to go with it. And,
Mhm.
I'm pretty good at using the software to do that. But it's taking a long time is importing it all and making a proxy. So just like sitting there waiting for the stuff to process. You know what I mean?
Right.
If that was more instantaneous, I would have had this long form video done much sooner. But now I'm thinking, all right, maybe it's going to take a week or so just of editing because of the wait time of processing
Right.
it.
I mean, short of getting a new laptop, you
Yeah,
could you could upgrade your RAM, get more RAM in your system.
right.
And then you could also put, I don't know what kind of hard drive you've got in your machine, but you could get an SSD with a bigger storage space.
But why is
Um,
it that I guess it's just the way the software is designed? You would think if you had an external hard drive hooked up, that would be just as good as an internal hard drive, as far as any software was concerned.
well, no, because it still has to transport all of that data through the wire to the computer for processing and for use. So you're adding an extra transport there. And it can
Sure.
be done, but if you want to make sure that your connection, whether it's USB-C or whatever it is fast enough to, to move that data over. So you
Yeah,
can do it
because
on external hard drives. Just make sure it's not a slow
right, but what I'm
transport.
saying is the software, I guess, is set up to not allow it, right? Because when I tried to do that, because you can select your proxy location in the software.
Right.
If I
Interesting.
select a location that's on the external hard drive, it gives me an error message and it says, no, it's got to be on your computer. It can't be on an external source, which is kind of
That's
annoying.
strange.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's strange.
it's annoying. Listen, worst comes to worst at this point. Maybe I'll just go out and
Our
bite the
people
bullet.
comes first.
I'll get the laptop, but maybe I mean we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I was thinking maybe chop it up into smaller videos if I need to. You know what I mean? I'm still
Right,
trying to
right.
decide, do I want to do the whole half-hour video? Some people do hour videos on YouTube now. You know what I mean? Like the longer episodes. Do I want to do it like that? Do I want to chop it up into smaller bits? I guess it also depends on the narrative of the story you're trying to tell, whenever you're trying to, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like there are creative decisions that go into that as well. So I'm kind of trying to figure that out. What I was hoping to be able to do is just edit the whole thing and then decide once it's all edited. But you know, if it doesn't let me get that far because of the proxy issue, I might need to just export something, upload it, and then delete the proxies and do another one.
True, true, true. Yeah, video editing can take time. I was doing that actually over the weekend as well. I was editing for a client, a recap of an event, and yeah, it can be tedious.
Yeah, but I do enjoy it though, especially when you have in your head an idea of what you want to do, the story you want to tell, right? You feel like a director making a movie almost. It's really cool.
Right, right, right.
So I really did get into that. And I'm thinking, man, like what would it take to make this a weekly series, a monthly series, something like that, where I'm just always doing that. You know what I mean?
Right,
Started doing that with the short form content. And you know, you can see how the consistency pays off with that. My
right.
thinking now though is in terms of storage long term, right? Because back in the day when we would do video processing, it wouldn't be as frequent and it wouldn't be as high quality, right? And so it would be easy to just say we're going to keep the source files on our hard drive or on a disk or something like that. But now, if you continually do this, right, you're always taking video and you're you're filming a 5.3K or whatever. It's really, really, really cumbersome to try to store all these files forever. You know what I mean? You can upload
Yep.
them to the cloud. I know I mentioned GoPro does have a very nice feature where they'll keep the raw footage. But what if, for example, I wanted to keep all of these edits that I've been making?
You need external hard drives.
Right, but at a certain point, how you know you're gonna have like what, a ton of terabyte hard drives stacked up in your closet?
Yes.
Do you really do that, or you just say, you know what,
Yes.
really, or do you just say, in today's world, the better idea is to just delete it and figure out, you know, listen, it's content. We move on from that. We don't keep those clips anymore.
Editors have tons of external hard drives. They just keep buying more and more. It's just that, and not only one drive, it's usually a backup as
Oh
well.
yeah,
So
it's
for
getting more.
each
It's getting
drive, you have a backup version of that drive. So you got two for each one that you're saving.
People don't realize a terabyte is 1,000 gigs, right?
Yeah, that's small if you're doing a lot of video editing, especially.
Exactly. It sounds big, but if each little clip that you put up, that you're using is like 3 gigs, 4 gigs, or whatever, it
Yes.
right very quickly
Yeah.
will reach that 1,000, and then that might be just for one long form video. If you want to do a long form video every week or every month, you know how many external hard drives you're going to need to keep up with that? Uh,
Yes.
I don't know if that's really feasible. You think most people are doing that? YouTubers. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in that space really, but YouTubers who are constantly putting out like an hour episode every week or something like that. You think they're storing their edits on external hard drives? Because they're going to have hundreds, thousands of external hard drives at some point. It doesn't seem.
Yes, I think for the professional ones, depending on their content type,
Mm-hmm.
I would say yes, they are storing those drives.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
and
that
then
makes
you can, I mean, you don't have to get it. You can get a bigger than 1 terabyte drive. You can get
true.
some pretty large ones.
That's true. But even so, man, I don't know. It's a lot of storage. I'm thinking about all the physical case files I have in my home from lawsuits, right? It's
Right.
like a closet full of cases. Now we need a closet full of hard drives for video,
So it's the same. Yeah, it's like the same thing. Like this is your
right?
storage. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm curious though to see what people do. Like I watch China Mac, shout out to China Mac. I watch his videos. He does Vietnam, Philippines, you know, he's up in Asia. And basically every week he tries to post an hour or so video of his life, his experiences in Asia.
Right.
And I know he uses a GoPro as well, so I'm sure he's taking advantage of that infinite cloud storage for the raw
Right.
footage. But is he saving his edits on a hard drive or somewhere every single week? I don't know. I'm
It
curious to see what people
depends.
are doing. Yeah,
It depends on, like I said, it depends on their content,
right.
right? I would think someone like MKHB, what is it? M something KHB? I can't. Marcus, what's his name? Brownlee, the one that does the tech reviews. He's like the biggest
Okay.
tech review guy on the planet.
Right.
I would imagine he's saving all of his stuff. He's got a full studio that he's
Right.
built. Like he makes a gangload of money.
Yeah.
Um, I would imagine Mr. Beast has all that footage. He built the whole warehouse studio. Like,
Yeah.
so
I mean,
it
you can have the
depends.
footage. Like I said, I can keep the footage unlimited to the GoPro. But I'm talking about now the edits that I make of it. In case I wanted to go
Right.
back and re-edit something. I mean, you could do that, I guess, with your final product if you want to take something out. But you know, you couldn't do a whole lot with it necessarily unless you actually had the edited version of the file you were working on. And that includes probably saving all the proxies and you know whatever. You know what I mean? To
Well,
make it manageable.
actually, I mean, you could if you're really strapped for space, You could, I don't know what software you're using, but you could delete the render files. They would have to be redone, but you could delete the render files once you're done because you don't need them anymore because you've already exported it. You would just need them again if you were going to go back in and start editing, and then it would create the render files again. Same with the proxies.
Yeah.
And there should be an option in whatever editor to maybe do that. So I like when I use Final Cut Pro for these things, I can go in and delete render files. I can delete proxies. I can delete the process stuff and then just remake them again later if I need to go in and do it.
Right. Right. Yeah, I guess I could do something like that. So that would just leave the raw footage that I transferred over from the cloud to the external hard drive for editing purposes, right? Because you don't want to edit directly from the cloud and you bring it down first.
Right.
That,
And the thing is, the
but you
edits,
could always, if you needed to, you could always download those files again and remake it, I guess.
well, you wouldn't have to remake it. It's all that you wouldn't be deleting the project file.
No, I
So
know that.
all of
That's what I mean.
the
That's what I mean. What I mean is right. Like reconstruct it, like so that the project file will still be there. It would open up, and it would look for those source files. If they were
right.
deleted, I would have to re-download them and put them back into place for it to find them again.
Right. Basically like that. So if that's the case, but the easier thing is to get external hard drives for storage.
The easier thing is to spend $1 million back and everything.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
cheap.
it's
It's not
yeah,
cheap.
yeah. But you could get a good, several terabytes for a couple $100.
That's true. I think this terabyte hard drive was like $100 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and the difference with those is you want to, those are probably physical media, so there's probably 7,500 RPM or 5,400 RPM, which is it's going to be slow to transfer a lot of that data, but if it's just storage, it might be okay.
Yeah.
Um, you'd want to work off of an SSD, but even some SSD storage is come down. So,
Right. Yeah, I'm curious. I would like to hear from content creators out there, YouTubers, whatever. What is your method, right? Do you back up everything in the cloud? Do you have a ton of external storage? Do you just say once it's out there, that's it? They're not going to revisit it. It's uploaded to YouTube, it's posted. Let's delete and move on to the next thing.
right.
So,
For me, I delete like when I do those uh some of the verses when I upload, like the single verses on like Instagram Reels and YouTube
mhm.
Shorts. So I kind of delete those.
Oh, do
I
you?
delete, yeah, I delete that footage sometimes because
Oh,
I'm
the
like I've
footage.
got the final product. I'm not gonna go back and
Right.
re-edit this.
That makes sense. Yeah. See, what I've been doing to try to create space on this computer for the proxies is just delete, but not delete, back up on flash drives or
Right,
whatever media I can. So I've got a ton of videos that were just on the hard drive. I'm like, I don't need any videos on this hard drive right now. I'm trying to make space. So I'm putting those
right.
all on external drives. Same for the music. Right now, I've got the project, all the source files from my last album are on the computer, but all of the other music that I've done that I have is now backed up on external drives because I don't need to have years worth of audio files, right? And this is raw audio wave files, which also takes up a lot of space, right? On
Right,
here. So I'm trying to basically keep my media to the extent possible off of the hard drive to create space for proxies right now.
right. So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, hey, that's the editing journey.
Yeah, you do it. You do what you do. I'm looking forward to this drop. And no, we are gonna have a video coming out. I don't want to spoil too much, but it takes you behind the scenes into my life over the past month or so, including the decision about whether to run for office this year, all the things that go into that, the emotional journey, meeting with people, talking to people, coming to that decision. So basically, I took a GoPro with me everywhere I went over the past month ish. And so
Mm.
you get to see that in real time. And I think it's going to be a good inside look into my journey, right? And hopefully, it's something I can continue to do going forward because it's nice. It's nice to do and show people,
Nice,
give people that insight.
nice.
Yeah. All
And
right. So
speaking a little of the music,
yes. Did you catch any of the Grammys?
I did not catch any of the Grammys, but I did catch the news of Kendrick Lamar. He swept all the categories he was nominated in, five categories for Not Like Us. You
Was it
got Record
5?
of the
I did
Year.
see. So I was actually watching a little bit of it on TV, and I did see him come to the stage a few times to accept that award multiple times, or awards for that same song multiple times. Was it 5? I'm not sure if all 5 were televised then.
He got Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Best Rap Performance, Best Rap Song, and Best Music Video.
Wow. I don't think all 5 of those were on TV. I think I saw maybe 2 or 3 of them that we came up to. Oh,
Right.
he did win Song of the Year overall, so not just in the hip hop category, but the actual best song of the whole year, which
Right.
is monumental for it being hip hop, being a diss track, right? This is
And
all.
that's yeah, that it's a diss track.
Yeah,
So like there's a couple of layers to that.
yeah.
Because he's specifically, it's not even like an ambiguous diss track. He's specifically calling out Drake. He's calling him a pedophile. And this is what wins Song of the Year.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. And you know what? One of those times he came up to the stage and they were playing the song in the background. That line was actually played and it wasn't censored or anything.
no, I heard it. I
Yeah,
heard that, I saw that clip.
yeah, yeah. And it was kind of a casual too. Everyone was just singing along. I think Taylor Swift was like rapping along to it in the audience. Like, you know what I
Say
mean? Like,
Drake,
it's like,
I hear you like him young.
yeah, it's just so pop, right? Pop culture that you don't even think about the
Yes.
implications of that. And that goes back to what we had talked about, about some people feeling a little uncomfortable about that subject matter being in that song. You know what I mean?
Right.
Do we want to make rapping about pedophilia so casual? And these are very serious. And again, it's not just in an abstract way. These are serious allegations about a real person.
Right. Absolutely. It's kind of crazy. Now the movement of the song, the influence, the impact of the song is undeniable. Like it was the summer, it just ran the summer, you know.
Oh, but it did in hip hop circles. That's what made it a little bit surprising, right? Or I guess noteworthy. The fact that it didn't just win hip hop awards, it won overall song of the year. And I have to
Right.
wonder what kind of impact did it have outside of hip hop circles? Because I heard it at the Dave Chappelle show. I heard it in hip hop spaces, right? But is it getting play in pop circles? You know what I mean? Like, are soccer moms blasting that on the way to soccer practice? You know what I mean? Like, what kind of
Yeah.
reach did it really have?
It had a lot of, it had a wide reach. I remember, friend of mine here, not a hip hop head, came and we got in the car and she was playing Not Like Us. She didn't understand any of it, but it was, she was playing it.
Why was
Um,
she playing it though? Was she listening to a rap station? Where did it come
no,
from?
no. I mean, it was just kind of random, I guess, because she was, I guess, what was she using? Spotify or Apple Music or something like that, and it was just songs that come up,
Okay.
recommended for her type of thing. So I guess off previous listening stuff. Matter of fact, it's funny because um, she was listening one day and one of my songs was recommended to her, and she's just like tripping out. But there's that, and then you had the movement, which I think what really propelled this song was that the social media aspect of it, the TikTok of it, with everyone doing Not Like Us videos and this and that. And so
Yeah, yeah,
there were people all over the world doing videos, content off of that song
right.
during that time.
That is true. And Drake is alleging in his lawsuit, I guess, that that was a conspiracy, that the label was
Right.
putting money into making that happen. Uh, you know,
It,
it wouldn't surprise me if they did, but I don't know what necessarily is wrong with that when that's kind of their job, right?
yeah, and it's like, look, you lost. You took an L.
Yeah.
The problem with it is that, now it's Song of the Year. Now it's gonna be probably played at the Super Bowl. Super Bowl. I mean, he has to do it at the Super Bowl now because it's Song
Oh
of the
yeah,
Year.
yeah, yeah.
So that's gotta hurt.
Oh
That's
yeah.
gotta really hurt.
That's a diss track, you know.
Especially when you're Drake. I mean, Drake's had an incredibly long run at the top, you know, and like untouchable to some degree.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Nelly and KRS beef. I think it might have been on one of those beef DVDs where Nelly was saying something like, "Listen, if I diss you, it's not going to be a mixtape underground diss record. It's going to
Right.
be a commercial pop hit that all the girls be singing to in the club." And I remember him saying that, and I was thinking, "Oh, that sounds cute, but that would never happen." You know what I mean? The idea of teenage girls dancing to a diss track about KRS-One seems so far-fetched to me. But that's kind of what happened. I guess it's a little bit different because Drake himself was in a different stratosphere in terms of
Much different, yeah.
than someone like KRS.
But
But still, that same idea of, usually you think of a diss track as being for hip hop heads, right?
right,
This
right.
was something that had far bigger reach that the whole world really heard and knew about
Yeah.
playing. That's new. That's something different.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the first time I've seen something like that. So yeah, it's gotta be a dark day up there in Toronto. I'm sure he's not a happy camper over the publicity. I think to me, my recommendation would be just to chill out, let it subside. Because
Yeah,
if he starts,
people don't care. This is my take on it. I think at this point, people have separated the song from Drake. You know what I mean? Not Like
yeah,
Us
yeah,
Now is a Grammy-winning rap song. Okay, great. I think Drake
right.
has a career. He could do what he wants to do. You know what I mean? I don't think it's really hindering him like that.
No, I don't think so either. And I think he just needs to chill out a little bit, and let this die down. Actually, Not Like Us only resurfaced really because of his lawsuit thing.
Because of the lawsuit. Yeah,
People started talking about it again, start playing it again as
right.
much.
Well, it was going to happen regardless if it won the Grammy or if, like you said, it was up for.
Yeah, sure. So I
But
think he could, if he starts like talking up now or getting feeling some kind of way now, he's gonna reinvigorate
yeah,
the conversation. And he
yeah.
doesn't.
Sometimes, like you said, it's best to keep quiet about things.
Yeah, this
Uh,
I mean, it's gonna come back up again because of the Super Bowl, but I mean,
Maybe he'll get to perform at next year's Super Bowl and do whatever song he did that people forgot about. So here's a question for you. They now apparently have a category at the Grammys for melodic rap.
I've never heard of that.
Look it
What the
up.
heck?
Look it up on the Google machine. I'm pretty sure I saw this. And at first I was upset by it. But now that I think of it, I think maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it should be considered its own genre because then you can get shine to artists like Kendrick who are really rapping. Maybe you can separate them out.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I guess off initial impression, like you said, um, yeah, I kind of like it.
Because Common and Pete Rock were nominated for Rap Album of the Year.
Okay,
You
that's
know,
dope. I like the album. The album is good.
maybe you'll get more of that if you have a separate category for melodic rap, right? You separate it out. So you have the lyricists in their own lane.
Cause yeah, I suppose because the melodic, that so-called melodic rap, are not really rapping.
Yeah, I never even
They're not
considered
doing
that. I consider it
lyrics.
more singing. It's like halfway, I guess, between singing and rapping, but it's like a different thing. They're doing something different.
It's something a little bit. It's yeah.
You know what I mean? The goal is
Interesting.
different, right? Like they're trying to achieve something different. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of weird to compare it to actual rapping.
Interesting. I'll have to sit with that to figure out what I really fully feel about that and whether that's good or not. But initially I could think, okay,
Yeah, because I always said that make it its own genre. It's not really. I mean, you can call it, I guess, under the umbrella of hip hop, but it's not
right.
rapping. So, last point about the Grammys: this best new artist was it, or was it the? No, maybe it wasn't best new artist. It was this woman. I never heard of her before. She won for best rap album. You know what I'm talking about? It sounds like Doja Cat, but I think it's like
Dochi, Dochi,
Doji. Yeah,
Dochi.
Dochi. So, have you heard?
She's fire.
Have you heard her music?
She's fire. She's got the lyrics, she's got the presence, she's got the talent, the creativity. Dochi is official.
Okay, I liked what I heard so far. I hadn't heard her before, but she did a performance at the Grammys. And I said, okay. And then they had some clips of her music. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
she seems legit. The one thing that I didn't like is when she gave her acceptance speech for Best Rap Album, she called her album a mixtape. And I'm like,
Interesting.
yeah, if it's a mixtape, why is it in contention for Best Album? Those should be
Right.
separate things. You know what I mean? To me, that just cheapens things. To me, that's how I look at it. Like a mixtape is a mixtape, but this is Best Rap Album. It should stand up as an album. It shouldn't be a mixed. Why is it
Right.
a mixtape? Are you jacking beats? Like, you know what I mean? Why isn't it just an album?
Yeah, you got me on that. But I'm happy to hear she got that. She does, as far as skill wise, she
Mhm.
deserves that.
She seems
Um,
like a throwback.
and yeah, she mixes it really well. Like I when I listen to her, not only the lyrics there, but I also get a little bit of because the creativity, I get a little bit of a De La and Native Tongues
Hmm.
type of vibe. Not completely, but it's like mixed in there. And a little bit of Diggable Planets too. It's
And I
like she
think in the main single, she was rapping with like a little Kim inspired flow slash beat.
yeah, she can it's like she's very versatile. I like it. So I'm happy that I'm happy that she got that because, you know, women have been dominating hip hop for the past several years, which I have no
Um,
problem with.
you sound
But
like what's her name? The one from Rhythm and Flow,
what?
Lotto. She was like, he's like, I just gotta be honest. Women are more interesting in hip hop than men are right now. I'm like,
Well, they've been dominating the last couple of years. However, it's the booty cheeks out women dominating hip hop for the last couple of years, and Doechii is not that. She's got bars behind her. She's got the skills behind her, and that's what I'm happy is taking the forefront.
like an India RE kind of vibe when she came out.
Um, she's got a little bit more of an edge though, too. I don't know where she's from. I wonder where is Doechii from?
I believe she's from Tampa. I think that's what she said.
Is she?
I think she said that at the Grammys.
She is from Tampa.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah. I like Doechii. So
Breaking news coming across the wire: Trump proposes the U.S. take over Gaza. Well, of course he proposes that.
yeah.
A lot of the stuff. I mean, I guess it's breaking news because it's the president, but I mean, it's like really, is it news? We all know what's going on here. All right.
Well, the thing is, it's probably a reality. It's
Yeah.
us not taking it over, but the Palestinians are going to lose Gaza. I mean, they've already proposed that they move them all out, and Trump's talking about it. Looks like good real estate.
Everything's in real estate. It's crazy. I was just thinking, not to get too deep into this, but I was thinking before, you would think that with all the stuff going on, there would be a revolt. And you would think it would be like, I guess this is just optimistic thinking, right? Like 90+% of the country standing against all of this stuff. Thinking this is absolutely insane. How could this be tolerated in a civilized society? The fact that
Right.
not as many are saying that is kind of chilling. But all right, let's not go too deep into the rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's, a lot of people are calling for that, especially, if you go on to social media and you see any of Democratic politicians' posts, a lot of people in the responses are like, because they're calling some of this stuff out, but it seems like they're doing it only on social media, and they're like, please, people are like, do something.
I'm not even
Like,
talking about the people in office necessarily, when they certainly play a role as well. I'm just saying the country in general. Like you would think you would
yeah,
look
yeah,
at the opinion poll and it'd be like 98% of Americans disagree with what's going on. You know what I mean? But you don't see that. It's like still split around
right.
50-50, which is
Well,
crazy.
I think,
And birthright citizenship. I mean, you know what I mean? That to me, that's the cause of a revolt. Like what the hell is going on here? Now that you're talking about ending the idea of being innocent until proven guilty, right? If you're just accused of a crime, you lose
what?
rights. That came up. Didn't that come up in the context of the immigration issue where it was like basically you can be deported? I forget the exact framing of it, but they were talking about deporting people who are just accused of a crime and who haven't had their process yet.
Ah, I hadn't heard about that one. I
So
know we're expecting in the next couple of days the an executive order shutting down the Department of Education.
you know what I
Uh,
mean? And why is it that more than a single digit percentage of Americans agree with this? It's so
right,
odd to me that, you know what I mean? Like you would think we would have a certain framework, right? And certain
well, we did, and they've circumvented all of this
but
stuff.
you would think like at a certain point people would be like, no, 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 like you're coloring outside the lines here. You know what I mean? Like we all agree that this is crazy. You know what I mean? Like where is that line? I feel like we should have crossed that a while ago, and especially
Right,
now with all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like why isn't everyone up in arms? Why like I said, I would expect to see, and maybe this is just me being naive or being too optimistic, too romantic about America. I would expect to see like 90+% of the people being crazed, you know, completely opposed to all of this.
right, absolutely. I mean, we've had a crazy week that Musk going in and taking over basically all the records from the Treasury Department and locking people out, and he's not an, and they're not even using like secure things. Like some of his team are using Gmail for this stuff, and it's just like, what's happening? And you know, how can this be stopped? And like you said, I agree. Like, where are people up in arms? And I think people are, but we're not seeing people taken to the streets or anything like that. And maybe it will happen at some point.
Mhm. And even if it
But
happens, though, even if it happens, it seems like it's going to be about half of the people agreeing, half the people
right,
saying, no, we
right.
we disagree with the people in the streets. It's not going to be like a unified front where the whole country demands that it stops.
Right,
What you think you would
right,
get, right? Everyone damn near, except for like the most crazy of the extremists, which you would think would be a very small number, but it doesn't seem to be the case.
right. Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where this goes. All right. So I guess we want some optimism here. We got two choices. We can go with Cuomo or we can go with flooding. These
Neither
are our
one
two.
of I don't think the flooding is optimistic at all.
Well, I guess
Um,
all right. So we can do the Cuomo stuff really quick because I think that's optimistic if your name is Andrew Cuomo or if you're a
if you're
supporter of
yeah,
his. I find this very fascinating because Cuomo is not in the race for mayor officially as of now. Now petitioning is about to begin. It's this month, right? It gets underway. And he has not announced. I think there's a strategic reason for that. Um, but the way he's dominating these polls right now is something to behold, right? People have said, I know our current mayor, Eric Adams, has said, well, don't get carried away. The polls at this stage reflect name recognition, right? If you look at what happened last time, he would say another Andrew Yang, coming off his presidential run, he was dominating the polls for mayor initially, right? We saw what happened with him. He didn't win. He didn't even come close to winning when it was all said and done. So
mm,
basically, that's saying don't put too much stock in Cuomo now. Okay. Anthony Weiner back in 2013, also up in the polls, right? He fizzled out. So the difference here may be, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I am. Maybe we should pull up these numbers and look at comparisons. The extent to which Andrew Cuomo is currently leading this field. I mean,
right.
other candidates were ahead. I don't think they were ahead by this much at this stage of the game. Again, I could be wrong on that. I want to verify those numbers. I just keep looking at these Cuomo polls, and I believe the last one had him. Let's pull this one up. I think he had 58. Yeah, he had
58%.
58%. Now, this is a
And the
big
closest challenger was 17%.
right. So this is a big multi-candidate field. We're talking like what, a dozen, really more, because I looked at the CFB website, right, the Campaign Finance Board, to see all the
Mm.
people who had filed for mayor, and it's a lot. It seems like more people are running for mayor than city council, damn near, right? Everyone's trying to get in this mayor's race. But even
All
if you
right, I'm
narrow
running
it,
too. Throw my head in the race. Let's
yeah, go
go.
ahead, why not, right? But even if you narrow it down to the mainstream or the more viable candidates, right, it's still what, maybe half a dozen or more people who are in that conversation.
All
So
right.
it isn't one or
50%
two
of me.
people running.
Crazy.
The fact that one candidate can have 58% in a field
That's
this large,
crazy.
and the second place person, Brad Lander, has 17% to a
Crazy.
41 point lead at this point, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's
That's
crazy.
absolutely, you know what I mean? So yeah, of course you could go down. And we're looking at that. I think there was a push poll that came out where they were trying to remind voters of his liabilities, right? Because remember, he resigned from the governorship amidst scandal and accusations. He was never accused of anything. I mean, never convicted of anything, but there were
Right.
certainly accusations there. So he resigned from being governor. So just that in itself, a guy who recently resigned from being governor because he was marred by scandal is now leading the mayor's race, like not even a year or two later, by such a huge margin. I mean, what does that say? And also, is it an insurmountable lead at this point? Because sure, if he does run, and I think the reason why he hasn't officially declared himself a candidate is because he doesn't want those attacks, right? As now he's kind of shielded from it. He can say, I'm not even a candidate, you know. But if he gets
Right.
officially, you know those stories are going to keep coming out. Boom, 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 boom. But
Right.
even then, makes sense to wait. But again, it's February. Petitioning is this month. The primary is in June, only a couple months away. Is there enough time for him to lose that lead, or is it insurmountable at this point?
Right. I mean, if he's going to get in, he's going to have to do it really soon because he's going to have to get the petitioning,
Yeah,
which I'm sure he can knock that out easily.
he can knock that out easily. Yeah, yeah. So
Um,
I represent a firm that petitioned for a candidate for mayor last time who had nowhere near the same name recognition or resources as Cuomo. And he also got in there late. We got him on the ballot, if I'm not mistaken, in like 2 weeks. So
Right. So
it
he's
could
got
certainly be
he's
done.
got
He could
time.
wait. Yeah, he could wait until the last 2 weeks of petitioning. He can come in at the beginning, probably come in at the beginning of petitioning, but you know, he doesn't have to worry about that. It's not like he's not going to have the money or the resources to do it. And because
Right.
he's winning by so much right now, it probably is smart to wait for as long as possible before officially
Right.
announcing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's probably what, like you said, that's probably what he's doing. Waiting until, he absolutely has to, because like you said, those attacks are gonna come. My question is though, like, you know, how is it, that, he, like I said, he resigned amid scandal, but people want to put him back in an office.
Well, what does that
Like,
say? What does that tell you?
that's what I mean. Like, and this is not the first time. Like, I mean, Trump he didn't resign because of scandal, but he was impeached
Right.
twice, 34
Right.
felonies.
Well, I
Like
think, yeah,
people,
I know. I think part of it is people have a short-term memory when it comes to some of these things. I think
sure.
like giving second chances, but I think honestly, with Cuomo especially, there may be some remorse over how he was treated. I'll say this: when I petitioned, or actually when I campaigned for city council in 2021, right? I was knocking doors throughout the Rockaways and throughout the district, talking to voters. One of the most common things I heard, and by the way, this mostly came from older Black women, right? But I would hear this over and over again. I would be saying, "Hey, my name is Mike Scala. I'm running for city council. Hope to have your support. Talk about my platform." And then sometimes they will completely disregard everything that I said about my campaign and come back at me with, "I don't like how you guys treated Cuomo." And I
Mm,
said, "Well, when it said you guys, I'm not, I didn't do anything to him, but they just meant the Democratic Party at large, Democrats at
mm,
large, right? Like he got kicked out of his own party, basically, or, from within the party, there was a movement to take him down. And a lot of that, to be honest, we might have covered it on Nuance before. A lot of that came from the progressive wing. They were trying to get him out because they thought he was too moderate of a governor. So there was also some strategy, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but certain people were hoping to benefit personally from his resignation, right? Because they would make a push for his seat. So I think what you're seeing now in large degree is voters in New York City signaling that they want a shift to the center a little bit. These candidates who are running for mayor are mostly very progressive. And now they're trying to say, well, we're not as progressive as you thought we were. They're trying to move to the middle a little bit as well, because that's currently the mood of the electorate. And so I
right.
think that's why Cuomo is dominating the way he is. I think people saw him as an effective governor during COVID. Maybe they weren't
Mm,
happy with some of the scandalous stuff. Maybe, there's probably mixed reviews on that. Some people don't believe it. Some people think it was blown out of proportion. Some people think maybe
right.
a second chance on it, right? But they're not focusing on that. And to your point, yeah, Trump just got reelected after being found liable of rape. So maybe the rules have changed in that regard. Maybe people aren't looking at that aspect anymore, the scandalous side of things. Maybe now people are focused on whose policy best represents me. Who do I think is going to be best in that role as someone governing the city, right? Governing the country. Maybe people thinking of it like that at this point, right? They think that
Or they're thinking of it
crisis.
just,
So we need someone to help lead us out of the crisis, and they're willing to overlook some personal shortcomings if that's how they view them.
yeah, I think there could also be a little bit of um uh, maybe the devil type of situation.
Name
And,
recognition
and I
also
say
plays a
that,
role. Yeah,
yeah, and I say that because even aside from this with Cuomo and Trump, um, it's always been the case where, even remember when Congress had, like, I don't know, like 12% approval rating, but
right.
people were still getting voted back in office.
Right. Congress as a whole had 12%, but then you ask people about their individual congressperson and they'll vote for them. Maybe not most voters, maybe not most
Right.
people in the district. Most people would be like, yeah, vote out all the bums. But the people who are actually voting in these primaries tend to stick with their person.
Right. So they keep putting in the same people, even if they're not happy with the job they're doing. I think there's a little part of that devil thing in there.
But also there's nostalgia, I think, in a sense. People, I
Could
think Trump
be.
benefited from this. People look at the time when Cuomo was in office and they're like,
Right.
he kind of seemed to have a better handle on things than now. And maybe that's an unfair indictment of the current governor, like at the presidential level, right? Maybe that was an unfair indictment of the Biden administration and so forth. But
Right.
people tend to look at the state of things, right? The
Right.
state of the country. And they're like, wow, when that guy was there, things seemed to be better. And I think Cuomo
Right.
is benefiting from that now, in a sense. Remember, he was seen as America's governor during COVID. Everyone loved all the press conferences he was giving and all. And even prior to COVID, right? He seemed to manage the state well. He had his critiques and his criticism and his people who were his detractors and opponents, all that kind of stuff. But I think people maybe look at it like, yeah, like that was a different time, though, and maybe the criticisms we had of him then seem to pale in comparison or seem quaint compared to the situation that we're in now. And we kind of want someone who seems
Yeah.
to know what he's doing back in there.
It's, I mean, it's like, that in that vein, we would probably kill to have George W. Bush back in the White House compared to what's in there now. Because remember, at that time, we thought he was the
Yeah.
bottom of the barrel. It couldn't get any worse.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
I mean, that might be an exaggeration, but I agree. I agree with the spirit
I
of it.
don't think it's an
I was
exaggeration.
when you set that up, I was thinking you were going to say Mitt Romney because Mitt Romney
Mitt
actually seems
Romney?
really good now, but back when he was running, it was like, oh, we can't have him.
Right, Mitt Romney was one. Remember McCain
Right,
when he was
right,
the potential that
right.
people were thinking like, oh no, this is gonna be bad. He's gonna have us in, because he even said we could be in this war for like the next 100 years or something like that. And people are like, no, we don't want any of that. Um, but they are sane in comparison to what's going on now.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so maybe there's some of that as well with the Cuomo. Like at that time, it seemed like, okay, maybe we were overreacting, or maybe
yeah.
the goalpost has moved a little bit.
Yeah,
And we at least want to claw back to some of that craziness because it's nowhere near what we're at now.
exactly. And the other part that we haven't even mentioned is Eric Adams is still officially in this race. He's not even in second place. I think he's kind of near the bottom of the pack now.
All
And
right.
he may drop out or whatever, but as of now, he is still in it. And I think that's part of the calculation voters are making, right? Eric Adams was literally indicted. He's literally under indictment. And so
It's
when Cuomo jumps in a race, who was never indicted, he never faced
right.
criminal charges, right? He had some accusations about his personal dealings and whatnot, but you compare that to someone who actually is under indictment, which, by the way, it may not be for long, but I think that still plays a role in.
That's what he hopes.
Yeah, right. What? Say it again.
I said that's what he hopes.
Yeah, well, a report came out that Trump was asking the DOJ to drop the charges against Adams. So
Oh,
there is,
wow.
yeah, there is actually a rumor going around. I've seen it reported, so I'm not really telling any secrets here. I've seen it again. It's a rumor, but I've seen people discussing this publicly that he may resign as mayor, possibly to take a job in the Trump administration. But we don't know. It's
Everyone.
all speculation. Things could change day by day, whatever. As of now, he's the mayor. He's running for re-election and he's under indictment. And Cuomo, right, for all his faults, maybe seems a lot better by comparison.
Right. So, all
You know.
right. Well, we'll have to see. Uh, I mean, let me see. Let me see. We'll have to see. I'm sure we'll be flooded with the news of all of this stuff.
Okay,
Speaking of floods, you
I
see what I'm
see what
doing?
you did there. That
See
is
what
a
I'm doing?
good segue.
See what I'm doing?
Yeah, yeah, but a very sad topic though, right?
Yeah.
Um, this is being discussed now in the context of the fires in California, right? And they're saying in New York on the East Coast, our event, which isn't really a reality yet. I mean, we've obviously seen it and experienced it and continue to deal with it, but it hasn't come to pass in quite the same way. They're saying in the next 15 years, it's possible that we're going to lose many of our homes in New York City. And in fact, if you look at this study that came out, they're saying that the Rockaways are going to be hit the hardest by this, followed by Howard Beach, Hamilton Beach, Broad Channel. So basically, all these neighborhoods around here. This is due to the geography, right? The fact that we're situated on the water. We know we were hit by Sandy, completely devastated by that back in 2012. Well, they're saying, if you are to believe this latest report, that what's to come may be much worse in terms of damage and loss to our homes. And so if you read this report, and let's see, for those who want to take a closer look. This is being reported by the city. It really sounds like Armageddon in a sense because they're essentially saying that this whole neighborhood could be underwater in 15 years. That's the gist of what this is getting at. They're saying that New York City could lose over 19,000 homes due to flooding from high tides and storms, more than the toll of Hurricane Sandy.
Mm.
And
And
again,
I
part of
remember,
it is this area, right? Most of it is going to happen here.
right. And I remember the Sandy times because we were going around those areas during, and we could remember we could see like the water line on some of the buildings, how high it was. Like
Oh yeah,
that was,
yeah. No, I actually have pictures of it from back then when
yeah,
I was going around. In some areas in the Rockaways, it looked like an actual bomb went off. If I would have showed
right,
that picture and told
right,
you that was from a war zone, I took that in Beirut after a bombing happened. Like it would have been plausible. It looked like bomb damage, right? Because
right,
these homes are so badly destroyed from the storms and then fires as well, right? And they just got obliterated. So
right.
that's what we
So
were dealing with then. And to be honest, in some cases, I think still rebuilding, right? You go
right.
to our channel, sometimes you still see those ugly green fences from Build It Back and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, like
never completely recovered from that, right? Mostly on the other side of it now. But now they're saying that it could be worse. And it's not about one storm necessarily, right? They're not saying, well, one hurricane is going to come through and kill us. It may be, but I think it's just the cumulative
climate
effect
change.
of flooding and high tide. Have you experienced Hamilton Beach? I don't know if you've ever been there, Jay. Hamilton Beach is a part of Howard Beach. It's really its own neighborhood, but the address is still Howard Beach, New York. It's close to JFK Airport, right? But it's extremely susceptible to flooding. In fact,
Mhm.
it isn't just a matter of when it rains, it's almost a matter of being on a regular schedule, right? I looked at a house there once and I didn't take it because they were like, you need to move your car by 12 o'clock or whatever every day. Otherwise, it's going to be underwater. And
What?
yeah, it's just always floods. It's just always the tide. So when the tide comes in, it always floods. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And I was like, that's crazy. They were like, but you work, right? Like you have a job in the Senate at the time. Like you go to the office. I'm like, yeah, but not every single day. You're telling me every day I got to move my car. But what if it's the weekend? What if I want to stay home one day? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Every day I got
absolutely.
to move the car. And so that's what you deal with over there. And
Right.
obviously, it's a precarious situation, right? And as climate change continues to rock us, as we still deal with these
Right.
issues, and it seems like there isn't much of a focus now to remedy that, especially not from the federal level, right? Maybe the state is still trying to do what it can.
Right.
But as
And
that
that's
becomes deprioritized, I think we become in graver danger.
right. And with, there's been predicted from scientists because of a variety of factors, climate change, et cetera, that, the seas are going to rise at least a foot, which could, it sounds like a little bit, but that could bring the water in much further than 1 feet. And a lot of coastal cities are going to have flooding, going to have issues. So, I've seen some very extreme predictions. I don't know if it's the science predictions, but I've seen some saying like Florida, for example, is one of the examples a lot of people use that the coastline could potentially over the next 100 years come in 20 miles all the way around. And so
I
you're
heard
just,
that. Yeah, when I was
yeah,
younger, people used to tell me that. Even when I was probably, I think when I was in school in the '90s, they would tell us that, like, like in the next 50 years, Florida is probably going to be completely underwater. That's what they would tell us.
yeah. And so, cities like Rockaway, that area is, would lose most of it, what's going on there,
Yeah,
especially everything on the beach.
right.
So,
So this report apparently has.
does the report say anything as far as what people should do or could do
Well, I was going to say this
for
report apparently has
themselves?
not been released yet. So the publication called The City saw an advanced version of it, and so they're reporting on what they saw. But it was conducted by the Regional Plan Association, so a legitimate body here, and it has not been uh, released yet. So we don't have the full report yet. Just what this
Hmm.
article is reporting about it, but it's saying, "Wow, okay." So the 19,300 homes in the next 15 years could be lost due to flooding from high tides and storms. And another 24,300 units within the 5 boroughs could be substantially damaged by 2040 in a major storm that has a 1% chance of happening in any given year. Okay. So
Right.
they're saying every year between now and 2040, if I'm reading this correctly, there's a 1% chance of a catastrophic kind of storm wiping out even more than what's anticipated.
Yeah. Um, so I mean, yeah, I mean it's something that, if the water's coming in, there's nothing you can do. The people should know, I guess, to just know and make preparations.
Right.
Insurance.
After Sandy, you saw a lot of that, right, where houses were elevated. They would put houses on stilts, you know what I mean, to try to get them more
Right,
the sea level. So yeah, certainly that. Of course, if you're in a flood zone, you need that flood insurance, right? But all right,
right.
that can be something. But if your home is destroyed, you know, your home is destroyed, right? Insurance or not. Hopefully
Yeah.
built and whatnot, but it's still your
And
home.
if it's something that's like sudden, like we're seeing in the fires in California, that insurance may not even work because they could just get overwhelmed, and because some people were losing their insurance in the middle of it.
Right, right. Or you may not be able to rebuild in the area where your house was, right? If it's considered too dangerous now, because it's it's gonna get flooded out again or whatever. And of course, all the sentimental value also
Yeah.
lives potentially lost, right? I mean, these are big major weather events we're talking here, and even if it's the accumulation of it, it's nothing to sneeze at. It's this is a very
Yeah.
serious situation. So I do think long term we need to be more vigilant when it comes to climate change. I know people don't always want to hear that kind of talk when it seems more immediate and more urgent, and it is, right? But
Yeah.
you need to think, I think, short term and long term. So that's
Right.
part of it, right? Just start taking the environment and these considerations more seriously. Let's work to be more resilient. Shout out to John Corey. He recently put up a post on Friends of Rockaway Beach saying, I think if you became mayor of Rockaway, like if Rockaway became its own city and you were mayor, what would you do in the first 100 days? Something like that as a thought experiment. And I said I would announce the One Rockaway movement, where we look at issues that affect us throughout the peninsula and come together to work on solutions, right? Because we know there's a lot of division in a place like Rockaway, but there's also a lot of common ground and a lot of room to be able to come together and work together. One of those areas, transportation, right? Healthcare being another one. But a major area is environmental resilience, protecting the beach, right?
Right.
We've mentioned when we talk about protecting the beach, it isn't only a matter of preserving that ability to have fun on the beach, right? It isn't only a matter of leisure. That beach is a barrier against the elements in a way, right?
Sure.
On a narrow strip of land surrounded by water on three sides, you need to have protection from the
Sure.
surging tide, right? From the elements. So when the beach erodes, for example, you're losing a lot of that barrier and you're putting
Yes.
the people and the property, right? People's homes, etc., more at
Yeah.
risk by losing that barrier, right? And so you need to be looking at all measures possible to combat that, right? To stop the erosion. I know people talk about jetties in some areas, they're appropriate, seawalls in some places,
Right.
there's a lot you could be doing there, but that all needs to be not only looked at, but I think aggressively handled, aggressively addressed, right? To make sure
Right.
that we have maximum protection. Now, look, I think we have to acknowledge that being in a coastal area like that comes with inherent risks. So you're never going to be 100% safe. But
Absolutely.
that doesn't mean that you don't maximize what you could do, right? You
Right.
still say, all right, what are the risks and how can we mitigate them to the extent possible to make it as safe as it can be? I think there's a lot more we could be doing in these areas.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, to that point, the issue, like, climate change and looking at the environment and this and that, one of the oppositions that they're always saying that I hear is people are saying, oh, well, it's not, they take issue with this point that it's man-made. And the point to me is like, whether it's man-made or not, we can debate that point, right? Even though science says this is man-made or man-influenced climate change. If it's happening, Your home doesn't care whether man made it or nature made it. If that water is coming in, your home is at risk. So that
Right.
is why it needs to be taken
But you know
seriously.
what though? There are people, and I don't think this is the majority at this point, but I do see people even in these areas, right? Even people who have been personally affected by some of these
Right.
storms, maybe who have lost their homes or have their homes damaged, they still want to
Right.
argue not just that it's not man-made, but that it's not real. What they'll say is,
Right.
oh, it ebbs and it flows. So,
Right.
sometimes we get more rain and snow, and sometimes we don't.
Sure.
Sometimes it goes up. Sometimes it gets warmer. Sometimes it gets cooler. It's cyclical. It's just the way God intended it. You know what I mean? They don't even want to acknowledge that it's really a problem. That it's a trend, and you can show them graphs and look statistics. They don't even want to acknowledge those facts. That's a problem, right?
I would say cut through all of that and say, okay, but we're coming up on one of those flows,
Right,
and you're at risk, regardless of who did it, what the
right,
chart says.
right.
One of those natural flows that you're talking about, ebbs and flows, it's about to happen, and you're on the coast, and so there's
Yeah, I agree.
what do you want to do about it?
I agree. Some people just don't want to acknowledge that there's a problem. I think they would rather
Yeah.
just chalk it up to God or whatever comforts them, whatever helps them get through a scary situation. Sometimes people they just don't want to address the issue head on. Um, the other
Yeah.
point on that, no, it's just I don't know. It's unfortunate. You know, what I mean, you'll hear people say we talked about snow in the beginning here. People used to say, and this is why they changed it from global warming to climate change. People
Right.
bring up the fact that it snowed. Oh, how is a global warming when it just snowed? That's completely
Right.
batshit crazy to say, but people would say that, right? And to the
Right.
point where they changed it from global warming to climate change. But even then, it's like, oh, but it snowed last year and it snowed again this year. How's the climate change? You know what I mean? Like people don't want to look at trends and
It's a lack of it's a willful ignorance. This is a phrase that I love to use. It's a willful ignorance.
yeah,
Because they just don't want to listen to why. You could, like you said, global warming. People are like, oh, well, it was cold last week. Like, well, how's it global warming? Like, that's not what we're talking about. And
right, right,
you don't want to look into it to find out
yeah,
that
yeah,
that's not.
right, right. People will say
No.
that kind of thing. It sounds crazy, and it is, but it doesn't stop people from saying it. They'll say, like,
Right.
if you put on a coat, I've seen this kind of thing around Howard Beach. I hate to say it. A Democrat puts on a coat, and someone says, "Oh, well, so much for your global warming, huh? It's cold out."
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a
what?
willful ignorance. That's just it's insane. It's crazy. It's a willful ignorance. And we're seeing it not just in the climate change, but it's just everywhere. People get this stubbornness in thought and belief and don't want to look deeper. Or don't care to because it upsets whatever their worldview is,
Well,
whatever they
yeah.
believe, whatever they feel comfortable with. And it's like it's going to affect you whether or not you want to believe in it or not.
I think, yeah. To that point, I think a lot of people seem to be unwilling to engage with data and statistics. They'd rather go with their own gut feeling and even their
Right.
own personal experiences and anecdotes.
Right.
And you see that play out in different iterations, I think. For example, when it comes to polling, you see this. Anytime a poll is announced on social media, right? Look at the Cuomo one, for example. You'll see it posted somewhere. You go read the comments, and you'll find people saying that it's not true because they weren't called,
Right.
right? They'll say, well, no one asked me how I'm voting. So how could that poll be accurate? They didn't ask me who I'm voting for because they don't
Right.
understand or want to understand the notion of data and how statistics work. They only want to
Right.
look at their own experience.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, that's where we're at these days. So what's the bottom line for all of this?
Wow. Stop being willfully ignorant. I'll
Yeah.
say maybe maybe we should start embracing the notion that our own personal experience isn't the only experience, and there's
Mm.
a bigger world than what exists before our own eyes. And you know what? You could even look at that in a spiritual context too, right? That's a lot of people's foundation for being spiritual or being religious, right? This idea that something bigger than them that we can't see, that we don't know, right? I think that is a valid philosophy. That
Mhm.
is a good way to look at things. And I think we should
Yes.
be taking that approach to everything in life, right? There's
Yes.
more than we can see, right? So don't
Right.
judge what you think is going on in the world or really with anything based on what you can see alone. What you see certainly has value, right? But look at what's beyond that and be open to the possibility that there's something bigger about this particular situation, whatever it may be, than what you yourself have experienced.
I think that is perfect, and it's applicable across the board, not
Yeah.
just about the climate change. It's applicable to the misunderstanding of the DEI fights. It's applicable to what women go through. It's applicable to what even, straight white males, it's all of that. Like that idea of putting yourself in other people's shoes or looking through other people's lenses to understand that there may be some things going on that you may not be witnessing, but someone else is experiencing. So I
Right,
think it's
right. Or
great.
at least be open to the
At
idea.
least be open to
Bigger
to
world out there than just what
right.
your immediate worldview, what you can see right in front of you.
Absolutely. And I think that is an excellent bottom line. And that would say, I would say, to get more excellent bottom lines and discussion like that, watch us everywhere. We're on YouTube. We're also everywhere podcasts are available. And yeah, take part in the conversation.
And as always, we've got work to do. Thank you for
Oh,
joining
we
us, and
do.
we'll catch you next time.